Women had been fighting for 60 years. We want a place in sports. We want to be the biggest stars in sports. And you know what? They're all hot garbage. They're all unlikable. Holy cow.
The WNBA finds itself at a crossroads as major broadcasting networks reportedly scale back coverage following Caitlin Clark's injury. With ESPN and Fox Sports pulling segments and a crucial CBA deadline looming, the league faces its biggest challenge since Clark's meteoric rise brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball. Industry commentators are sounding alarms about plummeting viewership and questioning whether the WNBA can maintain momentum without its biggest star.
How many times have you watched WNBA games since Caitlin Clark got hurt?
As contract negotiations heat up and a potential lockout threatens the 2026 season, we examine what this means for players, fans, and the future of professional women's basketball. What's your take on this developing situation? Hit that subscribe button and let's dive into this story that could reshape women's professional sports forever. The media landscape shift happening right now is unprecedented in WNBA history. When ESPN and Fox Sports start pulling dedicated segments, that's not just a programming decision, that's a business statement. These networks don't make moves like this lightly. They have data, they have viewership numbers, and they have advertising commitments to consider. Let's put this in perspective. Just 6 months ago, Clark's games were drawing audiences that rivaled some NBA playoff games. Networks were scrambling to get more WNBA content on air. Suddenly, we're seeing the complete opposite trend. This isn't just about one player being injured. This represents a fundamental question about the league's sustainability without its marquee attraction. The timing is particularly brutal. We're approaching the most critical juncture in WNBA history with collective bargaining negotiations, and now the leverage that television ratings provided is evaporating in real time. Networks that were once eager to showcase women's basketball are now quietly removing it from prime programming slots. Are you seeing this coverage shift in your area? Let me know in the comments what WNBA content you're still seeing on major networks. Here's what makes this situation so complex. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a good player who happened to be popular. She was a cultural phenomenon that transcended sports. Her appeal reached demographics that traditionally ignored women's basketball entirely. Middle-aged men who couldn't name 5 active WNBA players were suddenly tuning in to watch Clark play. That kind of crossover appeal is incredibly rare in sports. Think about other athletes who've had similar impacts. Tiger Woods in golf, Michael Jordan in basketball, Serena Williams in tennis. These weren't just great athletes, they were cultural ambassadors for their sports, who brought in entirely new audiences. Clark's injury comes at the worst possible moment for league negotiation. Players have been pushing for higher salaries, better travel conditions, and increased revenue sharing. Their strongest argument was the surge in popularity and viewership. Without Clark on the court, that argument becomes significantly weaker. The business side is stark. Merchandise sales, ticket prices, and television ratings all saw dramatic increases when Clark was playing. Her absence isn't just felt in Indiana, it's affecting the entire league's economic position. Teams that never had sellout crowds suddenly found themselves playing in packed arenas. When the fever came to town, did Caitlin Clark change how you view the WNBA? Share your story in the comments below. October 1st isn't just another date on the calendar. It's potentially the day that determines whether professional women's basketball continues to exist in its current form. The collective bargaining agreement negotiations happening right now are the most important in league history, and they're happening at the worst possible time. Players want significant salary increases. They're looking at the revenue generated during Clark's rookie season and arguing they deserve a bigger piece of that pie. The problem is that revenue spike was largely tied to one player, and she's not currently contributing to those numbers. Team owners are in a difficult position. They've seen what success looks like: medals, sold-out arenas, national television coverage, merchandise flying off shelves, but they've also seen how quickly that success can disappear. How do you negotiate long-term financial commitments based on what might have been a temporary phenomenon? The lockout threat is real. If no agreement is reached, we could see the 2026 season canceled entirely. That would be devastating for a league that was just starting to gain mainstream traction. Players would lose income, teams would lose momentum, and fans would lose interest. From a business perspective, owners have to weigh the risk of giving players significant raises against the uncertainty of future revenue streams. Without Clark's drawing power, can the league maintain its newfound popularity? Can other players step up to fill that void? These are million-dollar questions with no easy answers. What do you think a fair WNBA salary structure should look like? Drop your thoughts below and make sure to hit that like button. The commentary from established sports media figures reveals just how significantly the landscape has shifted. When personalities who previously championed the WNBA's growth are now expressing skepticism, that signals a broader industry reassessment. The comparison to Tiger Woods is particularly telling. Golf didn't disappear when Woods wasn't playing, but television ratings, sponsorship deals, and general public interest all declined significantly during his absence. The WNBA faces a similar challenge. How do you maintain momentum when your biggest draw is sidelined? What's interesting is the honesty from media figures about their own viewing habits. These are people who cover sports professionally, yet they're admitting they've stopped watching WNBA games without Clark. If professional sports commentators aren't tuning in, what does that say about casual fan engagement? The media ecosystem around sports is brutal in its honesty. Ratings drive coverage decisions, coverage drives fan engagement, and fan engagement drives revenue. It's a cycle where each component depends on the others. When one link breaks, like losing a marquee player, the entire chain can collapse quickly. This isn't unique to women's sports, but it's particularly challenging for a league that was already fighting for mainstream acceptance. The WNBA has always had to work harder for media attention, television coverage, and sponsor interest. Having that attention and then losing it creates a particularly steep climb back to relevance. Which sports media personalities do you trust for honest WNBA coverage? Let me know who you're following for this story. Professional sports are ultimately entertainment businesses, and entertainment businesses live or die by their ability to capture and maintain audience attention. The WNBA's recent experience perfectly illustrates this reality. When Clark was playing, everything changed. Ticket prices increased, sometimes dramatically. Teams that usually played in half-empty arenas were suddenly dealing with sold-out crowds and waiting lists. Merchandise sales exploded. Television ratings reached levels the league had never seen before. Corporate sponsors that had previously ignored women's basketball were suddenly interested in partnership opportunities. But attention is fickle, especially in our current media environment where countless entertainment options compete for viewers' time. The WNBA discovered that while Clark could generate that attention, maintaining it without her presence is exponentially more difficult. The economic implications extend beyond just game attendance and television ratings. Sponsorship deals, merchandise contracts, and facility agreements all get negotiated based on projected audience numbers. If those projections were inflated by the presence of one player who's no longer actively contributing, every financial calculation changes. This creates a cascading effect throughout the organization. Teams that budgeted for higher revenue streams now face potential shortfalls. Players who expected salary increases based on league growth suddenly find themselves negotiating from a weaker position. Investors who saw potential in women's professional basketball might reconsider their involvement. The challenge for the WNBA is proving that Clark's impact represented genuine growth in interest for women's basketball, not just curiosity about one exceptional player. If they can develop other stars and maintain competitive quality, the foundation she helped build could survive her absence. If not, we might be witnessing the end of a brief golden period. Do you think the WNBA can succeed long-term without relying on individual superstars? Share your prediction in the comments. Looking ahead, the WNBA faces several potential paths, each with dramatically different outcomes for players, teams, and fans. Scenario 1. Successful negotiation and recovery. The league and players reach a reasonable CBA agreement by October 1st. Other players step up to fill the attention gap left by Clark's absence. Television networks gradually return to covering the league as competitive balance and storylines develop. This would represent the best-case scenario, but it requires multiple things to go right simultaneously. Scenario 2. Limited lockout and reset negotiations extend past the deadline, resulting in a shortened 2026 season or delayed start. This gives both sides time to reassess expectations and create more realistic financial projections. The league essentially uses the pause to rebuild its foundation on more sustainable terms. Scenario 3: Extended work stoppage. No agreement is reached, leading to a canceled 2026 season or longer shutdown. This would be devastating for league momentum and could effectively end the WNBA's brief period of mainstream relevance. Players would need to consider overseas opportunities, and casual fans would likely move on to other entertainment options. Scenario 4: Structural reorganization. The current crisis forces a complete reimagining of how the WNBA operates. Perhaps this includes different ownership structures, alternative revenue models, or even integration with existing men's professional leagues in some capacity. Each scenario has implications that extend far beyond basketball. Women's professional sports in America are watching this situation closely, as the WNBA's experience could influence how other leagues approach growth, star development, and financial sustainability. The next few months will be crucial. Clark's recovery timeline, network decisions about future coverage, and the outcome of CBA negotiations will all play roles in determining which path the league ultimately takes. Which scenario do you think is most likely? Vote in the comments and tell me why you chose that option. This situation extends far beyond just one professional basketball league. The WNBA's experience offers lessons and warnings for all women's professional sports about the challenges of building sustainable mainstream success. The rise and potential fall of WNBA popularity demonstrates both the opportunities and risks of star-driven growth. While having a transcendent player like Clark can accelerate development and bring unprecedented attention, it also creates dangerous dependency. Other women's sports leagues are undoubtedly studying this situation closely. The media response reveals ongoing challenges in how women's sports are covered and perceived. The quick withdrawal of coverage when ratings decline suggests that network commitment to women's sports remains conditional and fragile. This has implications for how leagues negotiate television deals and plan for future growth. Sponsorship and advertising relationships face similar scrutiny. Companies that eagerly associated their brands with the WNBA during its peak popularity period must now decide whether their commitment was to the league itself or to the specific phenomenon that Clark represented. For young female athletes, this situation presents both inspiration and caution. Clark's impact proved that women's professional sports can capture mainstream attention and generate significant revenue. However, the fragility of that success also highlights the additional pressures and expectations placed on female athletes to not just perform athletically, but to carry entire leagues and sports on their shoulders. The college sports connection adds another layer of complexity. Clark's popularity began in college basketball, and her transition to professional sports brought many fans along. If the WNBA struggles without her, it might affect how college women's basketball is perceived and covered as well. How do you think this affects other women's professional sports? Share your thoughts and subscribe for more analysis on this developing story. For fans who've discovered women's basketball through Caitlin Clark, this situation presents a choice point. Do you continue following the WNBA even without its biggest star, or was your interest specifically tied to one player's unique appeal? The league's future depends partially on how many fans answer that question. If a significant portion of Clark's audience remains engaged with women's basketball more broadly, the foundation for long-term growth exists. If most casual viewers drift away, the league faces a return to its pre-Clark status quo. This also affects how fans think about supporting women's sports. The rapid rise and potential decline of WNBA popularity illustrates how fragile progress can be in women's professional athletics. It raises questions about whether fans have responsibilities beyond just watching games, perhaps including financial support through merchandise purchases, season tickets, or other direct investment in league success. For existing WNBA fans who supported the league long before Clark arrived, this period presents its own challenges. Seeing their favorite league gain mainstream attention was exciting, but the possibility of losing that attention just as quickly can be frustrating and disheartening. The international perspective is also worth considering. Women's basketball is popular in many countries where professional leagues operate successfully without relying on individual superstars. The WNBA's current crisis might offer lessons about building more sustainable models for success. If you became a WNBA fan because of Caitlin Clark, Are you still watching? Let me know what keeps you engaged with women's basketball. We're witnessing a pivotal moment in the history of women's professional basketball. The decisions made in the coming months will determine whether the WNBA's recent surge in popularity was a sustainable breakthrough or a temporary spike tied to one exceptional player. The network exodus, CBA negotiations, and ongoing uncertainty about Clark's return create a perfect storm of challenges that will test everything the league has built over its history. Success requires navigating multiple complex issues simultaneously, something that even well-established sports organizations find difficult. What's clear is that the easy part is over. Building mainstream attention around a transcendent star like Caitlin Clark was challenging enough, but maintaining that attention without her presence, an even greater test. The WNBA must prove it can succeed based on the quality of basketball, the competitiveness of games, and the appeal of multiple players rather than relying on one individual's star power. The stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about one league or one season. It's about whether women's professional basketball can establish itself as a permanent fixture in American sports culture. The decisions made now will influence opportunities for current players, future athletes, and the next generation of fans. For everyone who cares about women's sports, the coming months will be crucial. The WNBA's experience offers lessons that extend far beyond basketball about building sustainable success, managing growth, and navigating the complex relationship between sports, media, and business. The story isn't over, but we're definitely at a chapter break. What happens next will determine whether this period is remembered as the beginning of women's basketball's permanent breakthrough, or as a brief moment of mainstream success that couldn't be sustained. This is a story worth following closely. Subscribe to stay updated on all developments. Share this video if it gave you new insights into the situation, and let me know in the comments what you think the WNBA needs to do to survive this crisis. Your engagement helps us continue covering these important stories in women's sports. Until next time, thanks for watching.